Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto Uzumaki was raised by a dark plan, strong Naruto, Hinata, Sakura, Ino, Anko, Tsunade, Karen, Tamari and Mei Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Dr. Amachi, they are our saviors. Karen declared. Truthfully, she was hoping that because after Orochimaru died, this man took over with the experiments and life sucked her. So naturally, she would take a chance at getting out this place and away from that man. However, the good doctor just rolled his eyes. Oh please. You think that everyone that comes here will come to take you away, you silly girl. Someone has to. Karen growled. Ha, you, Isaribi, and Suigetsu are stuck here with me. The man laughed. You're my experiments now. Joy, Isaribi sighed from atop her tank. Okay, this guy is so weird. Menma shouted in annoyance as he walked to the middle of the room. The mood was already ruined for him. Oh sure, don't be in a hurry to kick the guys or anything. Naruto replied as he too walked onto the scene with a bored expression. Now Dr. Amachi looked nervous. Damn that kid, he told me that no ninjas were going to be searching this place. He growled before smiling in a crazed manner. No matter, I am sure the ninja in this place will cover my tracks. He paused and then continued. There are too many of them anyway for my tastes. What makes you think we are going to let you escape this room? Naruto asked. Well, how about this? Dr. Amachi shouted with a crazed look in his eyes as he pulled a level under Suigetsu's tank and flipped it. The next instant, said boy was screaming in his tank as he was literally boiled alive by lightning and that made it start evaporating. You bastard! Menma growled as he instantly channeled the energy of Kyuubi and rushed the man, intent on killing him in the most gruesome way. No, wait, Naruto shouted, having a bad feeling, but like usual, Menma didn't listen to him. Karen panicked when she saw the redhead go all feral and change her master. However, she knew what he was, so she started thinking quickly, just like her master seemed to be doing. She need to get away from this fight as she was not much of one. Yes, she could take care of herself like any normal person, but she was not a great fighter. Thinking quickly, she flipped a switch and released her friend from her own tank and the two quickly jumped away just as the cubified Menma reached Drive, Amachi, who by this point had turned into his Kaima form, which looked like a humanoid lake monster or a Mirelurk king from Fallout 3. Not expecting this sort of resistance, Menma was easily gut-punched upwards and then kicked into Suigetsu's tank where he was electrocuted alongside the teen with the ability to turn himself into pure water. This served as the perfect distraction for the man because Naruto, Karen, and Isaribi were checking on Menma and Suigetsu. They never even saw him leave and alert the ninja patrolling the hallways. What were they again? Oh right, Orochimaru named them Sound Ninja. Is he okay? Karen asked the blonde. Naruto frowned as he checked on his brother. Menma was knocked out, but still alive, most likely and thanks to the Kyuubi keeping him alive. After all, if Menma dies, so does it. Yeah, he still has a pulse, so he'll alive. However, I am not sure about the other one. Suigetsu had turned into a pile of off-colored slime and was unmoving. Isaribi took one look and started to tear up. Usually when he went into that form, that meant he was extremely tired and the experiments took too much out of him. But even then he would talk back at people. Now he was just silent. Suigetsu, she voiced. The slime like out on bubble before collapsing into full-on water. Lifeless. Oh no, Isaribi cried. They had been close and she didn't know how to deal with this. Her best friend was gone. So she latched onto her only friend left alive and bawled her eyes out. Karen held onto her friend and sighed before looked at Naruto, only to see him leaving. Oi, where are you going? Naruto looked back at her disinterestedly and sighed. To continue my mission. Look after that asshole for me. When I get back, we can all go to Konoha if you want to join up. So you are just going to leave us here? Karen screamed. Yep. Naruto deadpanned before he left, leaving Karen to stew with a crying girl in her arms and his unconscious brother. Kea couldn't believe her eyes when she entered the room. It looked like a mad scientist's heaven. It was pretty disturbing, but the thing that got her the most was what was in the middle of the room. There was an operating table that looked as cold as the steel it was made from. On it was a man, but to her, he was far different than what she was used to. This man was blue. Not only that he had the features of a fish or a shark, she wasn't entirely sure. The man was in rags that were barely holding together and he looked very malnourished. During her observations, the man weakly turned his head towards her and nearly had a heart attack. Why? Well, because this girl looked a lot like that woman who was able to beat all of the 7 swordsmen all by herself. Who are you? The man asked weakly. I am Keiru Uzumaki Namikaze. What's yours? She asked politely. The man chuckled. Oh, how I have fallen. I am talking her to daughter and I am not even in battle. Damn that snake and his lackey. He paused to cough violently and said, I am Kisame Hoshigaki. Keiru blinked at that. Wow. My mom told me about you. You were really fierce when you fought her to the point that she was actually scared. I tend to do that. Kisame smirked. So kid, what are you doing here? Well, my team was sent here to retrieve info on Orochimaru's curse mark now that he is dead. Well. Shit. So the lackey has been doing his experiments on my alone, terrific. Kisame growled as he felt even more shame. Oh well, he was dying so it didn't matter to him that much. He would be dead soon. However, there was still the matter of his successor, he didn't have one. Looking to the girl, the daughter of the woman who had defeated him and the other swordsman, he got an idea. So kid, you must be a great ninja thanks to your mom. Keiru smiled sadly at that. Not really. My ninja skills aren't that great. Mom and dad are more focused with my other powers. I see. Kisame replied. So you don't have a major plan for being a ninja? Your own style? No, not really. Keiru replied sadly. Hey, then how about this kid? You take my blade and the scrolls next to it and use my style. Are you sure? Why not? I am dying and I won't be able to use that shit anymore. Hell, I doubt any of the other swordsmen are still alive. Kisame replied. Softly walking over to the discarded sharkskin blade leaning against the wall, she gripped the hilt and while normally it would have destroyed her hand for just touching it, it just hummed as it ate away at her chakra, which she didn't even feel. What she did experience were the memories of Kisame and the others who had wielded the blade. Once it was done, she looked back at Kisame with a determined look in her eye. I do better than just use your style and sword, I will find the other blades and continue their legacy as well. My mother may have defeated you all, but I will be you all. Kisame smiled a true smile after hearing that declaration. And we will all be proud of you kid. He coughed again, but this time it was more violent as blood races out of his mouth. Damn, this dying business sucks, guess that is what I get for making all those people suffer, but I am going out in my own way. Kid, get the hell out of here, and good luck. The girl nodded and left the room, sad that the man was dying as she took his stuff. Kisame smiled and said, I guess I am not a bad guy after all, but I am probably still going to hell. Maybe I'll see Mangetsu there and I'll tell him about the girl that would surely capture his heart, hey, if he was alive. He then gathered what little chakra he had left and said, this is my last summoning, give me a better death than this and I promise that girl will be a better summoner than me. Summoning jutsu. With his piece said, Kisame smiled as 3 sharks appeared and ripped him to shreds. Keiru, who was still outside the door to his room, silently cried for the fallen swordsman. She would make him and the others proud. As for Not, she needed to find her brothers. However, she then felt the signs of someone using the Kyuubi's energy and shot off in search of Menma, feeling that he could be in trouble because the feeling of that dark chakra didn't last long. But she didn't get to dwell on that because she felt it again, but this time it was different. What the hell is going on and what does the second one feel different? She asked herself as she ran through the hallways. Naruto cautiously but casually walked down one of the hallways of the underground hideout he was in. He was sure Kakashi would find something in this hideout, him or Keiru, because he was not really finding anything and Menma was out cold. Hey, the almighty Jinchuriki, bested by lightning. Classic. As soon as he turned a corner, he was met with 7 sound ninja in their strange masked attire. The two parties just stared at one another before what looked to be the leader of the platoon of sound ninja chuckled and said, "Well boys, looks like we have a rat for the snakes to eat." He readied his kunai as the others did the same with chuckles. Well, shit, Naruto grumbled. I guess this is a perfect way to test if my dust fist style actually works. He then took a stance with his fists closed, and if you looked closely, they seemed to be shining a bit, along with the floor. The two closest to him rushed the blonde, going in for the kill. Naruto easily dodged the strikes before he sent out a punch to one of them that began screaming as soon as he was hit. The others paused as they looked at the man. The place where Naruto hit was like a crater. Most of the skin was gone and there was bloody muscle showing. Now they were more cautious of this kid. As the one guy bleed out of the floor, the next 5 rushed the blonde again, sending out kunai, shuriken, and their fists at the boy. Thankfully, Tsunade had helped him with his taijutsu, so he easily adapted to the fight as he twisted around the strikes and sometimes even punching the bladed weapons away. What shocked the leader the most was that a kid, while being able to defeat his men like it was nothing, was punching the weapons, which blew away to dust. How strong was this kid? However, he didn't get to contemplate any more on that development because his men were on the ground, not only suffering from their strange wounds that looked like something ate through them, they looked to be gasping for air. What the hell is going on? Simple. They can't breathe. Naruto replied darkly. The man looked at the young ninja, slowly making his way towards him. It looked like death was following the young ninja as the sound ninja was staring to freak out, especially with Naruto's sharp eyes directed only on him. My dust fist style is actually pretty dangerous. It allows me to coat my fists and feet with minuscule balls of the dust release technique. So when I punch you, I am literally destroying your body with a simple punch or kick as that part is turned into dust. However, you have yet to see the shine on the ground. What shine? The man nervously shouted out. Naruto's smirk grew even darker. Oh, you really did miss it. Well, let me tell you, since you won't be alive much longer. While the dust release can let you turn people and things into dust and then help you manipulate the weight of certain things, it can do so much more. You can't really see it, but dust is there in the air, but only in small amounts. I like to create more the ground and use it like magnet release users use sand and other metal. Naruto lifted his fist and the man froze, not from his own actions, but because of the pain he was in. I can see it in your eyes that you have figured it out. Naruto continued. Dust is easily breathed in through the air. It is now inside your body and with it, I can easily kill you. The man looked at Naruto in panic at this. In fact, I will. With that, Naruto clenched his fist and the man screamed out loud and then died as blood raced out of his mouth. In truth, the dust settled in the man's lungs and then spread itself through the bloodstream. Then, it all turned sharp and rushed to the man's heart, cutting up his veins and his heart in a matter of seconds. Quite painful compared to what he did to the others. All his did to them, after punching away their skin, was suffocate them. Naruto looked at all the dead man around him and sighed heavily. This had been his first kill. However, he would have to deal with that shit later because he still had a mission to do. Still, that didn't stop him from throwing up his breakfast. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, he walked away. Soon he found himself in front of a large steel door. It looked like it was meant to keep something in. Raising an eye, Naruto decided to open it and see what was inside. He was met with a dark room and someone cowering in the corner. Hey, you okay in there? Naruto asked. Yes, now close the door and leave me alone. I am a danger to everyone. The man shouted. Why? When Kimamaru was alive, he said I was the source to something called the curse mark. The man shouted again, but my body is much worse than that. I am a monster, I want to kill everyone. Okay, so the good news, he found the source of the curse mark. The bad news, the guy was nuts from being in a dark room for a long time. Terrific. Listen, I have friends back home that can help you. No, I am a monster. The man screamed as his voice changed and he stepped into the light. His body was changing right before Naruto's eyes. One whole half of his body was turning gray and adding weird additions to it. Before Naruto could take a closer look, the man with orange hair rushed him, forcing the blonde the duck and reluctantly punch the man. However, that is where the problem started. As soon as Naruto threw his punch and it connected, nothing happened and Naruto had to dodge again. What the? Thought the dust fist style was combat ready. He frantically thought as he dodged the punches sent out by the man. Naruto tried again and again to try and make his dust work, but nothing was being eaten away or anything that he could see. Finally, he was able to see something small just as he was punched to the other side of the room and into another room. As he lay there dazed, he remembered a small note in the scroll on dust release. That's right, dust release works differently with nature chakra and those in active sage mode. All the dust released is in that situation is eat away the chakra and not the body. He paused in his thoughts as he got back up and saw Jugo stalking into the room, looking like he lost his mind. Yeah, there is it, the parts that I punched have returned back to normal, like whatever was in him is now gone. Could be from a clan that unconsciously uses nature chakra. Yikes. Just die for me. Jugo roared, his voice back to normal but his mind was not as he sent a flurry of punches at the blonde, sending him further in the base. The sound ninja quickly evacuated from the area, fearing what the resident monster would do to them. Damn. Naruto replied as he got back up, his clothes in rough shape and his left arm looked to be broken. At this rate, I won't be able to punch that shit out of him, unless. Yes, unless he used that power. Are you still alive? Damn, you are one tough shit. Jugo shouted at him. Yeah, lucky me. Naruto groaned. However, to match you, I am forced to have to use a power I gained from being the son of a former Jinchuriki. Good thing I modified it. Naruto them held up the ram sign as Jugo laughed in glee. Suddenly, seals appeared under his shirt, making it look see-through for a moment and then he erupted with power. Ranmyaku Zenshin. Jugo watched a Naruto seem to hunch over as a dark red aura exploded around him. Naruto's eyes turned red with an animalistic quality about them and he gained the same whisker marks on his cheeks that his siblings had, but they were far fiercer. Finally the aura itself felt dark with emotions such as hatred and anger, but mostly anger. Plus, there were dark lightning-like strikes running along his frame every now and then. You call yourself a monster? Then fine. Let's fight as monsters. Naruto roared as his muscles bulged and the two rushed each other, Naruto's broke arm having been healed when the Chaos Drive had been activated. It was no contest because Jugo never stood a chance. Because Naruto HTI him with a full dust punch that made him feel far weaker than before. Then another and another. Jugo, in his correct crazed state, stood no chance against an anger-filled Naruto. Punch after punch came to his person as his body tried to refuel itself with the nature chakra, but it was useless. It hurt too much to fight after long and he was too weak to even get back to his feet. However, that didn't stop Naruto in his blind rage. While the Chaos Drive was useful, Naruto barely had control and he let his anger take control. This form was capable of rational thought, but it tended to make him act like a berserker and he often went too far in training with it. Naruto roared as he uppercut Jugo into the air and then went through a few hand seals. This will end it. Dust style. Detachment of the primitive world technique. He screamed as he created a full-body sphere in midair to catch Jugo in. Ah! Jugo screamed in agony as all the nature chakra in his body was completely and forcefully destroyed. For him, this technique also temporarily stopped his body from absorbing more nature chakra for a good long time. Naruto slowed walked to Jugo's down form and the two stared at each other before Naruto sighed as he forced the chakra of the chaos drive back deep inside his body. He hated being reminded that he was her son and unfortunately, he couldn't get rid of this dark chakra as it was part of his system and it just refilled itself. Jugo stared at the blonde in fear and in amazement. He had stopped the flow for the time being. The blonde and all but defeated him and he had a chance to kill him but didn't. Maybe, he should take Naruto's offer. Now, will you join me to the leaf? It Jugo a minute to answer, but he did with a weak, yes. Naruto. A voice asked in a bit of shock. Naruto looked back in a bit of panic to see Kaoru behind him, looking at him with wide eyes. Oh, Naruto groaned as he turned to see his sister, Kaoru standing there with her eyes wide and her mouth open. How much did you see? I saw that you had a weird but familiar aura around you when using dust release of all things. Kaoru freaked out. Naruto couldn't help but smirk a little at the last part, seeing how it was unbelievable unless you knew how he got it. Then that smirk disappeared with a look of anger. You will tell no one. He ordered. But Naruto, this is great. Kaoru argued. We have the same power, we are similar. We are nothing alike. Naruto raged, losing his cool and scaring his sister a bit. She had never actually seen him this angry. Then how did you get the Kyuubi's energy? Kaoru asked. There is a reason Kushina had a 10-month pregnancy. Kakashi said suddenly as he appeared on the scene, looking very ragged. His clothes were torn and his hair was matted down. What happened to you? Kaoru asked, worried for their teacher while Naruto raised an eyebrow. The cake is a lie. Kakashi screamed out to the ceiling uncharacteristically before calming down after he noticed he was freaking them out. Let's just say that this place is one dangerous experiment less and I got a trophy from it. He held up said trophy, which was a red round eyeball looking thing. You won't be hurting anyone else again, you bitch. Anyway, Kaoru said, really freaked out by her sensei and wishing to change the subject sooner than later by turning back to Naruto. Why are you so afraid to let others know about your power? It was at this point in time that Jugo finally decided to speak up. During our fight, he described it as two monsters fighting since I was constantly referring to myself as a monster. The red energy was powerful. At this, Kakashi snapped his attention back onto Naruto at finding out another piece of the puzzle, and it seemed that Kaoru had found out about it first. Red energy. Yeah, he had the Kyuubi's energy swirling around him. Kaoru shouted, making Kakashi stare at Naruto. The Jonin, having known about the possibility that Naruto had the Kyuubi's energy in him from Kushina, but he honestly didn't think the blonde would have to use it. The blonde was growing increasingly angrier by the minute as his plans were unraveling at the seams. His carefully laid out plans all for naught by a single action on his own part. How could he have lost so much control? Pinching the bridge of his nose, he tried to calm himself down. Maybe he could run enough damage control that would allow him to keep this all a secret. Then again, Kaoru was never good at keeping a damn secret, so maybe he should just kill her. No, Kakashi was nearby and would stop the attempt before he even got close. He would just have to put his faith into his sister of all people. Fine. You want to know? Then you better keep this a secret like Kakashi has been doing. Naruto replied, getting wide eyes from the girl as she quickly snuck a glance at the scarecrow-like ninja, who just waved at her before she turned her attention back to her elder brother and nodded. If that is what it requires and I get on your good side, then so be it. Kaoru replied. Naruto sighed a bit shakily and nodded to himself. That was my chaos drive. Apparently, I got it from being born from a Jinchuriki. I do not have the normal access that you and Menma have, but it is aligned to my chakra network and refills itself when it is depleted. It is my last resort. He paused for a minute to let Kaoru and Kakashi take that in. Then there is the dust release. Now that made Kakashi nearly drop his precious trophy. How in the world did Naruto get that? I got it from Onoki when Minato took me to Iowa with him. Naruto replied, not willing to give them any more information on that front. I have taken it further in my own style along with my energy release jutsus. But why hold these things back? Kaoru asked. Surely mom and dad will like that. Naruto glared at her and then said, don't tell me you have been blind to what has been going on that past few years. Minato and Kushina care nothing for me, but when I do reveal what I can do, I see where I stand with them. Will they accept or reject me? That is what I plan to find out at the Chunin exams. Kaoru sighed as she leaned next to the wall, her large bundled sword hitting it. Yeah, I have noticed and I have tried to ignore it and figure it out for myself. What will you do if they reject you? She asked, fearing the answer. I will leave, simple as that. I will not stay in a place that doesn't want me. Naruto replied seriously. But I will show them that they were wrong. I will show Minato, Kushina, Jiraiya, Menma, and all their stupid supporters that they were wrong. I am not some talentless piece of shit. I belong here. I deserve to have a family that actually wants me. Both Kakashi and Kaoru stared at Naruto for a little bit before they both had smiles growing on their face. Then I will help, the redhead declared. No, the blonde said right away. The best help you can give me is leaving me alone and keeping this a secret. Hell no, raged Kaoru. I am done sitting back and watching you get hurt. I'll keep the secret, but I am also helping you in this whether you like it or not, mister. She emphasized her point by poking him in the chest. This made the blonde sweat drop big time, and every time he tried to refuse, the red-headed girl cut him off at every turn. Finally Naruto had enough. Fine, do what you want, we'll deal with it back in the village. He sighed, thinking that this was going to be more trouble than it was worth. That was when he finally noticed the strange bundle on her back. What the hell is on your back? The Samahata. Kaoru replied simply. Kakashi once more nearly dropped his prize. Wait, the real one. How did it end up here? Some asshole had somehow captured Kisame and was experimenting on him. I met him and reminded him on my scary mom, so he gave me his sword and some scrolls before he went out his own way. Kaoru said sadly. I see, we should talk more about that later what we get out of here, but I am more curious as to who your new friend is, Naruto. Kakashi replied, pointing at Jugo, who was a very quiet person and was standing next to the blonde like Naruto was his lifeline. This is Jugo and our apparent objective. Naruto replied. Wait, you mean he is the source of the curse seal? Kaoru asked. I am more the inspiration for it since he used my flesh to tweak the curse seal into his own device. Jugo replied, annoyed. I see. Kakashi replied. Then let's find Menma and leave. Speaking of Menma, where is he? Kaoru asked. Knocked out cold in a large room by an electrical discharge. Naruto stated, getting looks from his teammates at how casually he said that. Don't worry, he is not alone. He is being watched over by another Uzumaki clan member and another girl. Oh, this I have to see. Kaoru shouted as she hurried ahead before coming back with a sheepish expression. Where is that, by the way? Naruto just rolled his eyes at his sister. She maybe have gotten to know him just a bit more and he was starting to open up to her, but she was his little idiotic sister after all. This way, he said as he led his sister and an amused Kakashi and Jugo. Oh, and Naruto, you owe me. Kaoru replied with a devious smirk. How do you figure? Naruto droned boredly. I am keeping your secret, so you owe me for that. As for what I will ask for, let's just get home first. Joy. Naruto droned before both siblings heard Kakashi mumbling about his precious as he rubbed the eye-like device. Is he going to be alright? Jugo asked. The siblings just shrugged, not helping Jugo's nerves. XXX. What hit me? Menma asked, and before the redhead known as Karen could answer him, Naruto chose to answer as he entered the room. A couple tons of water filled with electricity. Naruto replied. I did tell you not to rush in like that. Yeah. Menma growled, hating to admit that the blonde was right. So what the hell happened? We finished the mission while this nice redhead watched over you. What was your name again? The blonde asked. I am Karen, but I also had to look out for my little sister Isaribi because her love interest died in front of her. Karen replied, gesturing towards the fish-like girl, who was staring at a puddle of water. Great. I royally that shit up. Menma groaned. So, did you guys find what we were looking for? Yep. Naruto did. Kaoru chirped happily as she gestured over to Jugo, whose intimidating stature was pissing off Menma. Menma stared at Naruto for a moment before laughing. You gotta be shitting me. Naruto got the source of the curse seal in this giant. He nearly had to have died. I did. Naruto replied, cradling his old injury, which was his old broken arm. However, he could not explain how it could have healed so quickly, so he had to fake it. Indeed. Jugo's booming voice spoke, scaring Karen and Isaribi who knew of him. I nearly killed him, but he managed to survive my rage and talk some sense into me, helping me revert to my normal self. Not knowing that what Jugo said was a lie, Menma accepted it for what it was and snorted. Should have just finished the job and killed the runt. Why? Jugo asked, curious to know how bad Naruto really had it after hearing about Naruto's plan, which he hoped to help in. Menma stared at the man like he had gone insane but then remembered they were in foreign territory. Let me fill you in, big man. No one in our circle of friends and family actually gives a shit about him and you would do well to do the same. Jugo stayed silent for a moment before he grabbed Menma's neck with a quickness he was not used to. We see differently. Then you on this piece of shit's side too. Menma got out angrily as he struggled to breath. Yes. Jugo replied monotonously as he dropped Menma on his. All right then, we should get going before another fight breaks out. Kakashi intervened quickly. Would you two ladies like to join us back in Konoha or go your own way? Karen and Isaribi looked at each other for a moment. A silent conversation going on between them before nodding. I think it would better for us if we joined you. Karen replied. Kakashi nodded. Then we should go. XXX. Menma listened on as his sister gave her report after Naruto gave his and Kakashi before him. This mission had shown him that even Naruto was better than him if his blindly charging in was any indication. Kakashi had his lightning blade and other jutsu thanks to his implanted Sharingan. Naruto had those strange energy balls that didn't even do much against Jugo, but still managed to survive, and then there was Kaoru. Sure, she had her side of the Kyuubi's chakra and now the Samahata. So, what I want to do is be Konoha's blade master by finding and mastering the 7 swords of Kiri's 7 swordmasters, along with any other blades I might find. Kaoru finished, ripping Menma's attention away from himself and onto her. Minato smiled happily at his daughter. To him, she was the most promising of his 3 children. Naruto he just didn't care for, and Menma fought like a berserker. While good in some situations, one could not rely on that all the time. Now Kaoru was taking her ninja career seriously by being one with all kinds of swords and maybe surpassing her mother. This is good then, Minato replied with a smile as he took out 2 scrolls. Here, my Anbu teams retrieved these for me, but I think you would find them more useful. They are the Rajan blade and Zabuza's blade. Wow, thanks. Kaoru exclaimed happily as she took the scrolls. Yeah, now she had 2 more blades. And what did he have? Nothings. And he constantly ragged on Naruto. The blonde had more than him. All he really had was his berserker style he made when he combined a lot of what his parents taught him. He needed to find something to do. So, this young man is the source of the curse mark. Minato said, once more pulling Menma from his thoughts. Naruto, you will take him to Tsunade to see if she can help since you were the one to supposedly calm him down. Naruto nodded, but he could see that his father still did not believe in him. Very well. Now, I need to know more about you two. Minato's voice replied as he was talking about Karen and Isaribi. By then Naruto and Jugo had already left. XXX. So let me get this straight, you come from a clan that has unstable genetics and that causes it to draw in nature chakra. Tsunade asked, disbelieving. Yes, Jugo replied. I had hoped Orochimaru could have helped me, but he only helped himself. He said that I had inadvertently found a way for to revive himself if he should die. Suon's eyes widened at this point and wrote a letter and then shouted for Shizune to deliver it to Minato and quick. He would want to know that tidbit of info. Even if Orochimaru was alive, he could still be revived somehow. Alright, you have my full attention, but Naruto, I think Kakashi needs to speak to you and your team at your usual training ground. He sent a clone ahead of you to inform me about it and then to tell you when we were done. Naruto nodded and left. The blonde found his team already waiting for him. Menma looked at him with an annoyed expression like usual and Kaoru just looked relieved. Kakashi didn't even seem to notice him as he was reading his little orange book under a tree while rubbing the eye. What does he need? I got no clue, he just keeps reading his and rubbing the eye. Menma replied. It is creepy. Kakashi seemed to have heard him and froze before calmly laying his books next to the eye and walking towards. Ahem, now that everyone is here, I would like to tell you that I will be stepping up your training just a bit. Menma broke into a grin. Nice, what are we going to do? We've already got the chakra training exercises down. Kakashi I smiled as he brought out 3 pieces of ordinary-looking paper. That deflated Menma's good mood real quick. Oh hell no, I thought we were done taking boring as hell written tests back in the academy. This is not a written test. Kakashi deadpanned, keeping to himself that one part of the Chunin exams was a written exam. He would laugh when he would hear about Menma's reaction to that. Yes, it was tortuous for the kids and gold for him. While it is a test to find out what element your chakra is aligned to. So this would help us see what element we are best at to better helps learn jutsus. Kaoru asked. That is exactly it. Kakashi confirmed with an eye smile. Now that caught all 3 genins' attention. Kaoru could learn if she was properly aligned to water so that as she could use Kisami's water jutsus to a greater degree. For Naruto, this would help him with his flying problem. He wanted to be able to fly and with the power of wind on his side, he would be able to fly very easily, but he already had a guess as to what his elements were thanks to his dust release. For Menma, this could possibly help him in the long run for what to do with his ninja career. He couldn't be a berserker all the time or he would surely die quickly in the ninja world. No, he needed something else to help him. Okay, Kaoru, add chakra to yours first. Kakashi ordered. The red-headed girl nodded and added in a small amount of chakra. The result was it splitting down the middle and then getting wet. The 3 then looked up to their sensei for an answer. Kakashi sighed. Damn, I am not great with either water or wind. He said. But I know the general exercises for both and if you want, you can go and ask Asuma for wind jutsu suggestions. Now Kaoru, you have a rare opportunity. While I know you are dead set on learning water jutsu from that scroll, you can combine both elements when you have mastered them and make ice. Awesome. Kaoru nearly shouted. Kakashi just smiled as he gave her a scroll on the first part of learning to master water. She quickly took it and left to her part of the training grounds, eager to start learning. She would find out who got what element later. I guess it is my turn. Menma stated arrogantly, thinking that Naruto would have no element because he was weak. He then added a fairly large amount and the results surprised him. A third of the paper got wet, another started crinkling, and the last part caught of fire. 3. Damn, you kids are full of surprises. Kakashi groaned. I could personally help you with the lightning element since that is my own. The fire, I think would come from your overuse of the Kyuubi's chakra. Menma looked uncomfortable at that. It would explain why he always felt a burning sensation when using the fox's power. Finally, I would assume you got water from your mother since she is very proficient with it. Take this scroll on lightning exercises and I will be with you shortly. Kakashi ordered while Menma just shrugged and went to his own part of the training ground. Okay then. That leaves you, Naruto. Kakashi replied good-naturedly. You did that on purpose, knowing that they would do their own thing so they wouldn't find out what I have. Naruto replied with a smirk. I have no idea what you are talking about. Kakashi replied with an eye smile. Now do it. The blonde just shrugged as he did so, and the paper split in half, making Naruto smirk before his eyes widened when the two halves caught on fire and turned to dust respectively. About what I expected. Fire, wind, and earth. Kakashi said with a nod. Which one do you want to learn first? Wind. I have plans for that element. Naruto replied, making Kakashi nod as he gave Naruto a scroll on wind. Good luck, and again, if you need any help, just go ask Asuma. Kakashi sheepishly, but Naruto understood. Kakashi was no expert by a long shot on the wind element. So as Kakashi left Naruto to read his scroll, he noticed that Menma was starting out in space. He assumed the boy was speaking with the Kyuubi and he was concerned. The fox could try something. XXX. A few minutes earlier, Menma sighed as he sat down to read his scroll on lightning. He was not sure it would help, but he would take anything at the moment. You should have taken the water scroll, you pathetic human. The giant fox in his gut boomed before Menma found himself in front of said beast within his mind. His mindscape was not a sewer or anything like that. It was the village as it was the day the fox attacked. Sure, some of the buildings had been repaired, but most were in rough shape. But the thing that would catch most people's attention was the fact that the giant nine-tailed fox was in the spot where the Hokage monument would be. Why? Menma asked as he stood upon one of the only intact buildings to stare at the fox at equal level. The Hokage Tower. Because I wish to help you grow stronger. As you are now, you are a pathetic little human not worthy of being crushed under my paw. I will not have a weak vessel like you. The fox stared at Menma in contempt for a moment and then said, for you to grow stronger, fire will not help as it comes from my chakra and it is burning your body every time you use it. It was not meant for you and you are not yet ready for more. So I will forcibly change it to that of wind and I will personally teach you how to use that in water, which again, you should have started with. Menma was a little taken aback with the Kyuubi's offer to help, but whatever worked. If this meant he would cement himself within the family and not be a burden to them like Naruto was, then fine. Alright, but why wind and water? The fox stared at the boy like he was an idiot. It would seem that Menma did not only gain fire from Kyuubi, but his arrogance as well. I was getting to that, fool. Water is the most useful next to the pure destructive power of wind. However, what I planned for you was your blood. Menma raised an eyebrow. My blood? Yes, when you can control water, you could control it in any form, even in your body. I will help you to create more blood later on, but that is the end game. Absolute control over water in any form. Your sister may be able to use the same element, but I doubt she would use it for anything other than pure water and ice attacks. You will be able to do all. Kyuubi took a breath at that to regain himself. Now for wind, I am pretty sure you can create your own version for your father's Rasengan. That jutsu is powerful, but when you can warp it to our desires, then it will be purely destructive. I see. Then I will await for you to call when you want to start these things. Menma replied as he turned to leave. As his form was fading, he heard the fox say some parting words. Oh, and boy, use that shadow clone jutsu you had to learn from your parents in order to graduate from that pitifully school for ninja. I will, Menma replied. Good, and once you have power, you can kill your brother like you wanted. Menma may have been gone at that point, but he still heard it nonetheless. So the fox wanted Naruto out of the picture as well. First friends and family didn't want Naruto around and now the Kyuubi. Why did no one want Naruto? Maybe killing him would be a mercy. Menma thought as he turned to see Kakashi staring at him. Are you okay? Kakashi asked. Yeah, why? Menma asked. You have tears running down your face. Kakashi pointed out, making Menma blink owlishly as he raised his hand to his face and indeed felt the wetness. Why? Why was he crying for Naruto? Naruto sat at his desk chair in his home away from the Namakazes. It had been 2 weeks since they had gotten back to Konoha and then started their elemental training. While not knowing it, each of them had used shadow clones in their own way to help the process along and now had the first stage done with their first element. They knew it was going to be a long process, but in the end, it would help them a lot. However, Menma was cheating as he was training in his mind with Kyuubi. Oddly enough, the Kyuubi in Keiru didn't care. However, for right now, Naruto was hard at work on one of his seals. The seal he was working on was his flight seal that would be connected to his ghost step seal on his back. This jetstream seal, as he now called it, would tap into his chakra reserves and guide his wind chakra all around him that would allow float in midair. After that, flying would be easy. He would be like that Peter Pan kid he read about. There, that should do it, Naruto said as he finished the seal, then applied it onto his dummy mannequin, drawing it right in the final space of his tri-seal. Intangibility, jumping, and flight. Perfect. Just perfect, he said to himself as he admired his work. His eyes then wandered to his other tri-seal on the mannequin's hands. The ones that contained the power of the Sharingan. He didn't even have to use them in his last mission. No scratch that, he didn't get to use them because of him forgetting to apply the seals on his own hands. He needed to bring them on every mission, or else. Still, as his eyes lingered on the seals, he noticed that they were finished as well. What was in the seals? Well, after spending some time in the hospital, he found some Nara and Yamanaka blood. He knew those clans specialized in yin and yang based chakra techniques. Mind and shadow. He hadn't tested them yet, but he was sure they would work properly. They just had to. Knock. Knock. Naruto switched his attention to the seal-based monitors on his wall and saw that Keiru was outside his room door in the Namikaze home. Naruto frowned at this, seeing she never came to that door normally, usually waiting for him at the training ground. And no, he did not trust her enough to actually show her where he actually lived. She may say that she is on his side, but he was not going to trust her just like that. He could be civil towards her, but trust came with time. The blonde sighed as he walked to the door and pressed his hand to it, making it light up with seals. What these seals did was space displacement. In a way, they let him open his door to either the Namikaze home or to just outside his own home. They were quite useful. Once the seals disappeared, their purpose filled, he opened the door just a bit to look at his sister. What? Keiru raised an eyebrow at his secretive behavior, but shrugged it off as something she was have to work on. She smiled kindly and said, I am cashing in now. Meet me at Ichiraku's, we are going to have lunch together. Naruto gave her a deadpan stare. Fine, he said after a while and closed the door. I was kind of hoping we could go together. Keiru mumbled to herself as she walked away before she stopped. Wait a minute. She rushed back to the door and opened it herself, not having heard Naruto lock the door. What she found was an empty room. Well, empty of him, but not dusty furniture. Where does he go? She asked herself before rushing out of the house, giving her mother a quick farewell. There was no way he actually lived in that room with all that dust. XXX. After Naruto closed his door, he activated the seals once more so that when he opened it again, it was to the outside of his house. He did notice, however, that Keiru had opened to the door to his old room and found nothing, making him smirk. It seemed to grow as he watched her through the screens just leave, not even reporting to Kushina on her way out, just telling her that she would be out for a while. Maybe there is hope for her, but I'll still be watching. Naruto said to himself as he locked the door and disappeared with the use of his jump seal. He didn't apply the rest just yet, but applying this was good enough for now, and it would confuse the hell out of Keiru when she made to Ichiraku's and he was already there. And he was right. The blonde appeared on top of the building and then just jumped to the ground, and he didn't have to wait for long since when ramen was involved, she would turn into a speed demon. Wah! Keiru said as she stared at Naruto in disbelief. How did you get her before me? Magic. Naruto replied as with a smirk before it fell as they walked in through the flaps. I will find out later. Kaoru replied before she stopped him. Will it kill you to actually smile? Yes. Naruto replied quickly. I doubt that. Kaoru drawled before she started touching his face, forcing him to smile. After a few minutes of this, Naruto just decided to go with it as he forced a smile that looked a little dark. Yikes, that is pretty dark. Kaoru replied a little unnerved. My thoughts are pretty dark as well. Naruto deadpanned, making Kaoru back off and sit down at the counter, the blonde following shortly after. They ordered their meals from the friendly ramen chef and waited. Kaoru looked down at the counter sadly as she tried to think of something to say to him. Finally, she decided to just speak from the heart. Naruto, I am sorry. Naruto replied, his eyes widening in question as to why the girl was apologizing. I haven't been a good sister. Kaoru replied sadly. I saw the treatment you were getting and well, I ignored it until recently. There is no reason for you to trust me so quickly. And I won't. Naruto stated simply. Kaoru nodded before continuing. Right, I was a brat and ignored it, secretly hoping it would get better, but it hasn't. If anything, it has gotten worse. After Jiraiya told mom and dad about the prophecy and to just ignore you, it worked me up that I need to be there for you. I see. Naruto said and got a look from the girl at his lack of reaction to the news of Jiraiya. You already knew about that incident, don't you? Kaoru asked with narrowed eyes. Why do you think I sometimes refer to myself as nothing? Naruto asked, getting a hurt look from the girl. It also made her wonder what else he knew. I really don't know how to make it up to you, I really don't. But I will be there for you, earning your trust if that is what I have to do. Kaoru replied, determination set in her eyes. Admirable, but I won't make as easy. Naruto replied, I know, I should have started this earlier. Kaoru replied with a few tears. I love you big bro, and I want to prove it. Naruto nodded but didn't get a change to answer as their food finally came. Naruto and Kaoru thanked the ramen chef and his daughter Ayame, who had been listening, and dug into their food, with no finesse at all. That was one thing the two shared. Their love of ramen. After about 10 minutes of this, they were interrupted by an Anbu membering in the small restaurant with them, making them nearly choke to death with his sudden appearance. It almost made the Anbu smirk under his mask and laugh. Almost. However, he was a professional and kept to protocol. Naruto, Kaoru, the Hokage requires your presence immediately. Ah, come on bear, I just got my 10 bowl. Kaoru complained, making the man sweat drop. I am sorry Kaoru-sama, but orders are orders. The man deadpanned. Fine, let's go. Kaoru said as she quickly finished her bowl. However, mid-step after finishing, she saw that Naruto had somehow eaten more than her. She would never figure out how either. Naruto just smirked mysteriously as he paid before the two were taken by Bear in a shunshin. XXX. Minato frowned when his oldest son appeared in his office in a body flicker with Bear and Kaoru. He did not know why the two were together at the moment and didn't like it, but he would deal with that later, if his memory held. Recently, he has noticed that his memory was getting worse, especially with his increasing blackouts. It was baffling, so he had to write things down. He needed to get to the bottom of this and soon. Hopefully Jiraiya would return again soon for checking on his spy network. Now, however, he had business to attend to. He stared stoically at the 6 young ninja in his office before to turn to the one of the 3 adults, himself included, and addressed him. Kakashi, I will be implementing a test run of what I have planned. In order to integrate Karen, Isaribi, and Jugo into our ranks faster, we will be mixing the teams every now and then. I am guessing that today we have a mission with one of them. Kakashi asked. Correct. Minato replied, proud of his old student's mind. Kakashi, you will be taking Kaoru, Naruto, and Jugo on another C rank to Hidden Waterfall. They requested some help with politics and you are fairly good with that and Shin would be happy to see an old friend. It would be nice. Kakashi replied with an eye smile. Now I do have another mission. Bear, you will take Menma, Isaribi, and Karen to the edge of the land of water. There have been reports of another Uzumaki in the area and they are doing something strange on an island nearby. I need you to scout out that area and send back a message of what is going on and if you will need help in neutralizing that area. Minato paused for a moment and then said, these missions have the possibility of being more dangerous than they are ranked, so be careful. Dad, why would a politics mission have the possibility of being upped in rank? Keiru asked. Because, I got a letter from Jiraiya that there might be people after the hero's water and on of their own as a snake in the grass. So expect a fight, just in case. The two groups nodded and left the office, leaving the man to his own thoughts and hoping he would not black out again anytime soon. XXX. Near the gate, Menma was showing off for his female teammates. It was working on Karen with her split personalities, but not on Isaribi, who was still grieving over Suigetsu. Keiru looked on with disgusted and promptly ignored him as she stood next to Jugo and Kakashi. She was very curious how Jugo and how he had pushed her blonde brother to the point had used the Kyuubi's energy. So far the only thing she really knew about the guy was that he was a very quiet person and liked to keep to himself. She would get it out of him eventually. Where is Naruto? Jugo asked after minutes of listening to Menma boast about himself. I am right here, Naruto said as he walked out from behind a tree. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at this while Menma glared at him, wondering how long he had been there and if he used that disappearing technique again to appear there. He needed that technique if it was real. In truth, Naruto used his ghost step that he had finished applied on his back thanks to clones. That and his other tri-seal that were hidden by a pair of metal plate white gloves. He felt that with the threat of combat in this mission, that it would be a perfect opportunity to test drive his seals. So far so good with the complete version of his ghost step. Good, now that you are here, we can leave. Kakashi said, getting a raised eyebrow from Naruto. Why is the other team still here? I would have thought they left already. No, we wanted to leave at the same time. Keiru said, we are usually on the same team, but this time is different. I see. Naruto said, yeah well, that was a waste of time in my opinion. Menma growled, without me on the team, it lost some quality. Oh well, at least it has you Keiru. He then glared at Naruto and Jugo, only to be completely ignored. He just growled and said, let's go. His team nodded and left with Bear shaking his masked head. He hadn't been ordered to take off his mask yet, but that was fine with him. He was just a temporary stand-in team leader. He was sure that Minato would find someone else to lead the team of Jugo, Karen, and Isaribi, with the occasional switcheroo. However, he did have a gut feeling that he would be seeing these kids a lot more from now on. Kakashi shook his head at Menma. He had thought Menma was getting better, but that was not the case. Figures. Alright then, I guess we should go too. Sweet. Keiru shouted as she and the others darted out of the gates in a different direction then Menma's temporary team went in. As they traveled, Naruto smiled to himself. With Menma gone, that mean if the situation demanded it, then he could go all out. Oh this will be fun. XXX. A few days later, we find our little group of Naruto, Keiru, Jugo, and Kakashi, standing in front of a giant waterfall. It was a beautiful scene with all the plants growing all over and the sky clear of any cloud. Beautiful, Keiru said in a bit of awe. Indeed, Jugo replied, feeling peaceful at the moment. So, where is the actual village? Naruto asked, looking around. That is the problem, Kakashi stated, getting their attention on him. As foreigners, allies or not, we are not allowed to know of the entrance to Hidden Waterfall. However, it seems our escorts are here. The group turned to see three people standing on the water. The first one that caught their attention was the man in the middle. A kind-looking middle-aged man with short brown hair, with the edges graying on him along with a trimmed beard on his chin. He wore a sleeveless gray shirt with fishnet underneath, gray shinobi pants, and black shinobi sandals. From his hands to his elbows, he was covered in medical tape, signifying that he liked that look, or he trained very often and to the point of injury. Next was a boy who looked to be a few years older than him, and he looked kind of flighty. Like he was expecting an attack at any moment. The boy had ink black eyes and long, dark brown hair. He also wore a forehead protector symbolizing his shinobi status. He wore gray pants, a green shirt, and ninja sandals. Finally was a man who looked to be just as old as the first man. This man wore what seemed to be the normal attire for a waterfall ninja. A gray-collared ninja shirt, gray ninja pants, and black shinobi sandals. He also wore a tan bandana around his black spiky hair. What was striking about this man is that he looked very dangerous and had a look of greedy in his eyes. The kind-looking man smiled brightly when he saw Kakashi and said, "I still have no idea if the years have been kind to you. And you never will, but you have aged gracefully." Kakashi replied with an eye smile. So they really did send a genin team, huh? Well, who would have thought that the laziest ninja around actually got a team? The dangerous-looking man replied with a smirk. Now, Suian. They are our guests and Kakashi is helping me with the potential alliance with Rain. The kind man replied. Whatever, Shin. Suian said with crossed arms. I still think that having Konoha on our side is enough. What do you think, Shibuki? Shin asked the younger boy. Well, I guess having a lot of allies could be good. The boy replied nervously. See. Shin replied to his friend with a happy look, and the guy just snorted. Anyway, we will have blindfold you all, and Kakashi, you can just put that headband over that other eye if you will. Wow, they really are secretive about their entrance. Kaoru said as she was blindfolded. What? You thought Kakashi-sensei was lying? Naruto asked as they were led through a wet cave. Yes, was her sheepish reply. That hurts. Kakashi whined. XXX. Whoa. The three genin said in awe as they stared at the massive tree in the middle of the village as they emerged from a lake and took off their blindfolds. Beautiful, isn't it? Shin asked as he smiled up at the tree. Indeed. Jugo said, feeling more at peace as he stared at it. It brought a smile to his face. He didn't understand why, but right now, it didn't even matter. So, shall we make our leave? Shin asked Kakashi. Might as well. I would like to get this over with as soon as possible. Kakashi replied apathetically. I hear ya. Shinobi politics can be a real tricky business. Shin replied with a tired sigh, showing his age more. Shibuki, I would like you to give these genin a tour around the village while we work. If you can take them to Fu, she needs to open up more. Yes, father. Shibuki replied with a smile. Fu was a good friend, and for some reason, he felt more at ease when he was around her than normal villagers. However, while she felt the same, she was still a little cold to him sometimes. XXX. After a relatively short tour around the village, in which Jugo felt that he was tired and decided to take a nap by the rather large tree in the village, the group of Shibuki, Naruto, and Kaoru came upon a modest-looking hut. This is Fu's home. She likes to live on the outskirts of the village. Shibuki said as he knocked on her door. It opened a small ways to reveal the head of a green-haired girl with orange eyes. What? Hey, Fu, Shibuki said with a smile. Father is in talks and I thought I would come and see how you were doing. Plus, father said to bring some genin with Konoha along. Your father is a nice man, but I know he wants me to open up more. Fu replied, a bit tired. Come on, I know you like to be alone, but you need more friends. Shibuki urged. In a village full of people that ignore my presence as best they can, that is a bit hard. Fu deadpanned. And you are one to talk. I am one of your only friends. She smirked as his deadpan stare before looking at the two genin behind him. Fine, come on in. Shibuki smiled as he led the duo inside. So who are they? Fu asked after they sat down on the floor. Fu didn't have much in her home. A bed, a small kitchen, and other appliances one needs to live on their own, but not much else. These are. Shibuki stopped mid-sentence and smacked his head. Wow, I gave them a tour without even asking their names. Blockhead. Fu replied with a smirk, earning an annoyed look from her male friend. No worries. I'll just introduce myself. Kaoru shouted in a bubbly manner. I am Kaoru Namikaze. Wait, Namikaze. You are Minato's daughter. Shibuki freaked. Yes. Why? The girl asked, confused. I regret not being a better host. Shibuki replied nervously at having the most powerful man's, which he knew of, daughter right in front of him. No big deal, Kaoru said, waving him off. To her, it wasn't at all. Other nobles. Now that is another story altogether. Fu studied her for a moment with caution, but deemed her not a threat, for the moment. And this is my brother, Naruto. I could have introduced myself, you know. Naruto deadpanned, but not all that angry. So, Kaoru replied simply, I don't mind introducing you. If anything, you needed me to. Since Shibuki here said that Fu needs more friends, I say that you need some more too, and what better way than me introducing you to a new friend? That just made Naruto sigh. Fu smirked in amusement, liking this girl somewhat. She was a bit like Shibuki. Why would he need more friends? She asked. Because he is lonely. He gets the same treatment that Jinchuriki get but from our family when me and my other brother are Jinchurikis. Kaoru stated, revealing some info about herself before she froze, not sure how they would take that. Wait, what? Shibuki asked with wide eyes, and Fu looked a bit hopeful at seeing another Jinchuriki. XXX. At that moment, Jugo woke up to someone talking near him. It was annoying, but something about the tree he was sleeping next to told him to listen. Wait, why was a tree telling him that? Oh well, he would figure it out later. He crept around a corner until he saw that Suian character talking to a woman from Rain. He didn't get a good look at her though because of the fact he almost panicked at being seen and hid. So they sent a genin team with Kakashi. The woman asked. Yes, but I am sure you guys can pull this off. Just take the hero water, kill him and then take some more so we can sell it. Suian replied. This had better work, or we'll kill you myself. The woman threatened. Oh, it will, my dear, and then we can take over this stupid little village. Suian replied before them both laughed. In 1 hour, the plan will move. Jugo frowned at this. He needed to warn someone, but he doubted that Shin and the others would listen to him. No, he had to find his teammates and fast. Wait a second, you are a Jinchuriki like me. Fu exclaimed as she got right in Kaoru's face. Yes. Kaoru replied nervously. And you have a good life. How is that? Shibuki asked curiously. Oh, my dad is a seal master, so he was able to explain to the people why they were safe and that the Kyuubi could never hurt them. Then why is Naruto treated like he is then? Shibuki asked, very confused. I am truly not sure. They don't see much in him and he keeps his true power from them. Kaoru replied sadly. Why? Fu asked. Simple. To prove them all wrong. Naruto replied with his arms crossed. So how about you, Fu? Do they not see you? No. Fu sighed tiredly. They see a vessel for the beast, and they fear me and try to think that I don't exist. That's the extent of it. Well, seeing as you not a homicidal fool and more like a normal person, you have a friend in me. Naruto replied bluntly. Same here. Kaoru parroted cheerfully. Fu smiled. Thanks, that means a lot. Shibuki smiled as well, seeing his best friend in the village happy. If he was honest with himself, he had a crush on her and seeing her happy made him happy. However, he hadn't figured that part out and was a clueless fool. Before they could say any more, Jugo entered the building looking around frantically. What's up, Jugo? Have a nightmare? Kaoru asked. No, Kakashi and the others are going to be in trouble. What? They all yelled. What proof do you have? Shibuki asked seriously. You know I was feeling sleepy, so I sat next to the tree and fell asleep, but somehow, I heard the tree tell me to wake up and well, I came upon a conversation. One with Suian and a female talking about a coup. They planned to do it today. Shit, so the Hokage's suspicions were correct. Naruto growled, getting looks from Shibuki and Fu as to why he didn't call the Hokage dad, but then their earlier conversation reminded them of why. So what do we do? We are low-level ninja, who knows what kind of ninja they have on their side? Shibuki said nervously, really not wanting to fight. He knew he was a coward, but that didn't stop him. Shibuki, man up. We have shit to do and we won't be fighting alone, right? Fu declared then asked. You beat. We were prepared for a fight anyway. Kaoru stated as she pressed a seal on her arm and 3 swords appeared. Two like normal sheathed samurai swords, which she strapped to her back, and the other looked more like an old hilt than anything else. She attached that to her belt. I am ready. Naruto rubbed gloved hands where his specially made seals under and nodded, the action not going unnoticed. Let's do this. Naruto, I am unsure how this will go, so please me ready to use that jutsu on me if things go bad. Jugo said nervously. Very well. Naruto said with a nod, getting confused looks from Fu and Shibuki, but they never got an answer because they were already out the door. XXX. Suian smiled as he walked into the meeting room where Shin and Kakashi were talking with a rather plain-looking man. Plain as in he wore the typical covered attire of a rain ninja, face mask and all, including the umbrella. Suian patted Kakashi on the back in good nature. So, how goes the talks? Very well actually. Kakashi replied with a good-natured eye smile. What brings you here? I am curious as well, Suian. You expressed that you felt that we're fine with the allies we had. Shin replied with a frown, making Kakashi narrow his eye. That is true and I still think that. Suian replied seriously. Then I would ask you to leave, old friend. I would rather you not mess then up for us. Shin ordered. Very well. Suian bowed and then turned to leave, making sure his hands were unseen. However, I can't let this happen. Kakashi suddenly seized up as if in pain before falling on his face. The seal that Suian placed on his back now visible. What? Shin asked with anger. You are a fool. A kind-hearted fool just like your son, except you are braver. Suian's form dissolved into water, revealing it was just a water clone. There was a sudden gurgling sound, making Shin turn back to the Rain Ambassador to see a kunai in his jugular, with Suian cruelly ripping it out, spraying the office in blood. He was a fake too. Rain is led by someone far worse and I have guaranteed our freedom from him. All I need is the hero's water, which you gave me to keep safe from the ambassador in case he tried something. And Fu. They want her for some reason and I am more than willing to give her to them. You traitor. Shin roared. Oh please, we are ninja. Suian waved him off like it was nothing. And besides, do you think I was going to let you form more alliances when the one we have right now is crumbling? Konoha has become a lost cause and soon they will fall, just like the other 4. Eras don't last forever. What are you talking about? Shin growled. Suian grinned dangerously. The Akatsuki will be the end of the 5 great ninja villages. Just like the purifiers were to Cursed Clan. Suian didn't elaborate anymore as he popped the cork on the vial of hero's water and took a swig of it. He began glowing with power, grinning at Shin with a dark look. Do me a favor and just die. Shin didn't even see the blow as he was blasted out of his office near the top of the great tree and fell down. He was almost too shocked to save himself due to his shock at this old friend betraying him. Almost. Thankfully, Shin was a water master and made the air denser to slow his descent and land safely. Figures that wouldn't work. Suian growled before looking at a struggle Kakashi. Oh don't worry copy ninja, I will save you for last. Kakuzu will most likely want your head for the hefty price on it. Oh but don't worry, you see your brats again soon enough. With that Suian leapt out of the window after his old friend now turned enemy. He was going to enjoy this. Strike now, he ordered aloud. Father. Shibuki yelled as he saw his father being pushed out of his office. Thankfully the man survived, but this just proved that Jugo had been right. The eavesdropping paid off. Shin got up carefully and said, Stop son. This is a battle between me and Suian. Strike now. Suien's voice rang out and a horde of rain ninja jumped out of the shadows to encircle the lot of them. Or an invasion. Naruto deadpanned. Kid is right. We are finally getting this done. A female voice said. The group looked to see a woman who looked be a young, quite tall, and slim kunoichi. She had short light brown hair, blue earrings, red lipstick and a white hairband over her head, holding the hair out of the way from her eyes. She wore a pink tube top with an open, light green shirt, navy blue pants and ninja sandals. She wore her shuriken holster on her right leg. Who are you? Shin asked with narrowed eyes. While I don't like making allies, I do when it suits me. Suien stated as he landed. This lovely young lady is Hisame. She defected from Rain, but just as I found her on the run from them, I met with Kakuzu, who by the way is still alive, and struck a deal. She has been at my side since then, along with her friends. And what deal is that, Suien? Fu snarled. Why you Fu? Akatsuki is collecting your kind and I am more than willing to give them you. Suien said with a cruel smile. I won't let you take me. Fu shouted. Me neither. Shibuki shouted as well in a rare show of bravery. Well well, seems you do have some backbone kid, but she doesn't have a choice in the matter. Suien blurred again and hit Fu where her seal was, placing another seal there as well. But for now, you are my slave. Arg. Fu roared in agony as the seal worked and pulses of pain throughout her body before she hunched over and growled menacingly. Nice little seal they gave me. She is now my puppet to use. Suien said with a chuckle. Oh well, I guess this was the only way to make the monster obedient. You're the monster. Shibuki roared before Shin placed a hand on his shoulder. Son, we'll get her back. Shin stated. Right, Shibuki replied. He may have been a coward, but Fu had been there for him, now it was his turn to be there for her. Don't forget about us. Kaoru shouted as she got into a battle stance with the others. Oh, I haven't. Hisame, Murasama, Kirasame, take them out. With pleasure, boss. Kirasame shouted in glee as he and Murasama broke Naruto away from the group while Hisame took Kaoru out the group to fight one-on-one. Faye, you idiot could have taken the big kid as well, but whatever, Fu can take care of him. Suien shouted, making Fu rush Jugo. Suien then smirked cruelly at Shin and Shibuki. Now, let's have some fun. XXX. Jugo was not having a good time. Had to fight a Jinchuriki that had no control over her actions, all because of a seal, and he was not good with seals, at all. Arg. He grunted as he was punched in the gut, sending him skidding off into a lake. I won't be in control much longer. He said fearfully. However, he didn't get to ponder that as much as he wanted to, because Fu appeared above him in her initial Jinchuriki state and punched him down into the water. While down there, he felt his sanity slipping. His body has gathered the abundance of nature chakra and was forcing another change upon his body, and he felt the darker half of his mind taking over. Oh, he hoped won his battle soon. Or else things could get bad. Arg. Jugo shouted in unearthly rage as he surfaced, the changes being known by all. XXX. What happened to him? Shibuki freaked. Oh, so they have a member of the cursed clan on their team. Let's see how long that lasts, if he survives. Fu. Suien shouted in glee as he fought Shin and Shibuki. Monster versus monster. Kind of makes me wish I wasn't in a fight. Shin frowned at this but continued his fight nonetheless. He would talk to them about the cursed clan later. It was not like they told Konoha much about Waterfall's past anyway. XXX. Oh, that's not good. Kaoru grimaced when she saw Jugo lose it. Naruto had told her somewhat of what had happened. He didn't tell her all, but she got the gist of it. Oh, you should worry about yourself than your crazy-looking friend. Hisame said a little too sweetly as she brought out a whip made out of water. Kaoru snarled. I worry about whatever I what. Oh well then, if want to pay attention to other people's battles, then it is your funeral. The rain ninja replied with a cruel smile as she sent out her whip, which wound itself around Kaoru's arm, biting into it, making her bleed. Shit. The redhead cursed. Oh, does that hurt? Hisame taunted. Duh. Kaoru roared, tired of being a joke to this woman. Good you little bitch. Hisame growled, changing her tune. I have heard a lot about Konoha and the kunoichi, they're sicken me. Weak little bitches like you piss me off. Kaoru glared at the woman in front of her while reaching for the hilt on her belt. This is going to hurt, but this bitch deserves it. Let me show you, she said as the blade ignited in an orange glow and then sliced through the water whip. Why we are not all alike. She roared through the pain of being electrocuted by her own blade. Thankfully, she had been training with it and was prepared for the pain, but Hisame wasn't. The lightning current quickly passed through the water whip and stunned her. It was just long enough for Kaoru to quickly pull off a jutsu. Water style. Geyser fist. She screamed as the water in both the air and the nearby lake surged around her fist and then sent Hisame flying. Here I come bitch, I'll show you how much of a kunoichi I am. Water style. Super geyser. Kaoru launched herself higher into the air than what she launched her foe. I am ending this now, my teammates need me. Kaoru screamed as she brought out 3 tails, each one grabbing onto each of her blades. Ninja art. Omnilash. Kaoru struck Hisame 3 times before she flew back a bit, her tails putting her swords back before doing something different. Use my blade. The voice of the Kyuubi within her demanded as its tail twisted around each other and formed a many-sided blade in a corkscrew form. Kaoru nodded as she took the blade and plunged it in Hisame's heart, her body forcefully slamming into the ground. Kaoru looked sadly at her foe before looking away in shame. I had to do it. She told herself before rushing off, forcefully putting those feelings in the back of her mind for now. Her team needed her, so she would cry later. After all, it was her first kill. Naruto stared off at his 2 opponents. The first was who he assumed was Murasama. He was a muscular man, but more lean like most male shinobi. He wore a black, sleeveless shirt, gray pants, ninja sandals, and arm warmers which looked similar to Zabuza Momochi's. He had about chin-length gray hair which is spiked at the top. He also has a teal line marking that goes over his nose, somewhat resembling of Iruka's scar. This man looked like the seinen between the 2 he had to fight. The other man looked very unhinged. Despite his grunt look of a rain ninja, he stood out clearly with his over-eagerness to get into a fight to spill some blood. This man had to be Kirasame. Suddenly the man's visible eye widened and he shouted, "Let's kill this kid." Fine. He don't look like much of a threat anyway. Murasama replied as readied his own water whip, a little pissed that he was fighting a kid. Yes. Kirasame shouted in glee as he brought out a water whip of his own and the 2 trapped the blonde by grabbing both of his arms. Now you die, he declared as he took out a kunai and proceeded to plunge the weapon into Naruto's chest. That was when Murasama finally noticed it. What the? Why are you transparent? Naruto smirked, happy that his intangibility seal worked after all. Sure, he had to let them catch his arms to keep up the illusion of being caught, but that was the fun. So he let the water whips drop as he became fully intangible and then disappeared in a ghost step behind his attacker. Kirasame on the other hand was pissed that his kill had been delayed. He had missed. But how was that possible? He had stabbed the kid in the heart. He had what his partner had said and finally noticed it right before Naruto disappeared on him. What the hell? Kirasame screamed in rage. He's not very smart, is he? Naruto asked. Kurasame sighed, knowing that this battle was going to be more trouble than it was worth. Yeah, he is a loose cannon to be honest. I see. Naruto replied. I am not sure how long I can keep this jutsu up, so I will need to think of something soon. The blonde thought to himself before he looked at his hands, which were still gloved. As good as time as any. He muttered under his breath before having to dodge a kunai strike from both men. They kept after him, seeing how his jutsu had a limit. Naruto inwardly smirked as brought up his hands just enough so that they could slice off his gloves. He would get new ones later. With those out of the way, he activated both seals on his hands, but for 1 power each. In his right hand was the ability to manipulate shadows like the Nara, and in his left hand was the power of the mind like the Yamanaka had. However, in an effort to make both men back off from their vicious onslaught, he unleashed the power of the shadows, only for it to be something else. Now to understand this branch off, you have to know what makes the Nara's shadow. In a sense, shadow is both light and darkness, so imagine Naruto's surprise when he did not get shadow but the light portion in the form of a stunning blast of light that sent his foes away from him. Light. Meh. Good enough, I guess. I am pretty sure I can use that with dust. He said to himself, already thinking of way to train himself in it. But I guess I would have to have help from the Naras if I want true shadow. He concentrated for a moment and created a whip of light and struck it at the more unstable one of his foes. The light whip wrapped around the man's neck, catching him off guard, and was yanked forward. Let's see what power I got from the Yamanakas, Naruto declared as his outstretched left hand grabbed hold of Kirasame's face. There a glow, and Naruto felt himself blackout for a moment. XXX shared mindscape. Naruto opened his eyes to see himself in a darkly light landscape of some sort. So, this is what the Yamanaka see when they enter the minds of others. Now, let's see if I can make this guy fight his own comrades instead of me, Naruto said as he walked towards the only light in form of a dimly lit cracked light bulb. The blonde circled it a few times, growing increasingly annoyed when he knew he couldn't do a damn thing. Sighing, Naruto just put his hand on the giant bulb, and that is when things went weird. The light flickered for a moment before a black streak of power arced from his form to the bulb, and then there was an explosion, sending Naruto out of the mindscape. XXX back in the real world. Naruto growled in the back of his head. He knew that jutsu was untested, so why did he do it? To show off. He could have trapped himself in that man's body and died. Damn, that was stupid and reckless. However, Naruto didn't get a chance to think much on it, and his insane foe suddenly started laughing in the most insane way as his friend got back up and bum rushed the blonde in an attempt to quickly end the fight. What happened next struck him as odd and a little scary. Kirasame, while laughing, suddenly turned around and plunged a kunai into Kirasame's quickly approaching form, making Kirasame's arm go right through the man. Taking his bloody arm out of Kirasame's dead form, Kirasame stared at his arm for a minute, his eye going wider as time passed before he turned his head to Naruto, who went into a ready battle stance, and then he turned his head to Suion, who was easily kicking Shin and Shibuki's. Without warning, Kirasame rocketed off towards Suion in a mad dash to end his light while his insane cackles rose in volume. What the? Naruto deadpanned. What did you do? Kaoru asked cautiously as she stared at Kirasame, who surprised Suion for a moment, but the action just served to piss off the man as he decapitated Kirasame with a swift strike of a water blade. To be honest, I am unsure, Naruto replied as he held his hand and deactivated the seals. Well, it got rid of your opponents, Kaoru reasoned. True, but I could have died if I wasn't careful, Naruto said before he rushed to Jugo's side while Kaoru went to help Shin and Shibuki. XXX. Jugo barely noticed that his teammates were already done with their battles. He was just too out of it in his dark self to notice anything other than Fu, who was in the same boat thanks to the seal that Suion placed on her. Young one, don't rely on that side of nature like your clan has been doing. Let me help you. A voice rang out in Jugo's mind, distracting him enough that Fu got in a good hit and sent him into the giant tree. Jugo, Naruto shouted before turning to Fu in anger. Damn it, I was hoping I didn't have to use this as it feels cheap, but Itachi would want me to do it, he said while bringing his arms into a cross with his hands curled into claws as seals appeared to reveal the implanted Sharingans. They flashed brightly, making Fu backpedal away from him. When the light died down, she made the mistake of looking into those eyes, stopping her in place. Naruto nodded to himself. That was something Itachi had taught him in case either Kaoru or Menma ever got out of hand. Place a little Sharingan enhanced genjutsu over them and they would be docile and ready to command. Now, However, he needed Fu back to her normal self. He rushed over to her and revealed the control seal. Fu slumped over, with Naruto catching her. What happened? She asked. Suian placed a seal on you to control the demon within. You almost killed Jugo. No, please tell me if he is alright. Fu shouted in a panic. I think he'll live. Naruto replied seriously. Arg. Two people shouted in pain and shock, prompting the two to see Jugo get surrounded in a flash of light, and then other voice had been Shin, with a nasty gash across his chest while Shibuki lay on his side and Keiru on her hands and knees. Of course I have been wrong before. Jugo felt, as he leaned up against the tree that Fu had backhanded him into. He felt power from the tree and he felt that it was watching him specifically. Before he could get up to help Naruto, he felt himself go frozen and his mind go blank. Jugo opened his eyes again to see he was in a grassy field, but with the same he had been leaning on in the middle of it. There was also an old man in the clothes of a monk sitting under the tree with a serene look on his face. Who are you? Jugo asked. I have no true name, my young friend. I am simply a being that exists. However, I must apologize for my old stigma that you carry around in your body. The old man replied sadly. What do you mean? Your ability to take in nature chakra has been hampered by my old self, when I was an evil tree. Your clan was dubbed the Cursed Clan because they worshipped him, and I made them go insane when they gathered nature chakra. That is what made them outcasts in this land. However, as we fed on each other's insanity, it attracted the attention of a clan of purifiers and they cured me, but decided not to cure your clan, feeling it was already to last for you. Jugo looked sad at that. That seemed like his life. No one giving him a chance, except for Naruto. But there was one boy, who was connected to nature, and I helped him. With his power, he was able to create a whole forest. The old really smiled at that part. Still, he saw a chance to help your clan despite his own place in that warring era. He courted a young woman of your clan, but it was not meant to be as your clan was forced off the continent. Still, he managed to help your clan since you are his descendant, and I am about to help you as I helped him. How? Jugo asked in uncertainty. He really did want this, but he was not sure it could really work. Simple. Drink this. The old man replied as he brought out a bowl of water from behind him. With the purifiers gone, the people of this village call it hero water. It is my gift to them to protect themselves. However, what I am giving you will take away the taint and give you powers similar to the boy I mentioned. After all, you have his blood in you. Now drink the nature water. Jugo tentatively took the bowl before quickly downing the liquid, hoping for the best. At first, nothing happened, but as he was kicked out of that field, he felt his body burn. No, it felt worse. It felt like he was burning alive. Arg! Jugo screamed as he felt the nature chakra entering his system and burn away the darkness that he felt as insanity. Then his body began to change. His orange eyes took on an emerald green, his hair waved like the wind as it extruded power. And finally, skin took on the appearance of wood. XXX. Shibuki panted heavily as he stared at Suian. He had though that his teacher was a fair and honest man, if a bit too realistic. Now he just saw a power-hungry man that had hurt his friends. He knew he was a coward, but this time, he would use his teaching for his friends. Shinbuki ran forward, momentarily forgetting that he stood a chance against someone with the hero's water, and sent a punch at his old teacher. Fei, too slow weakling. Suian shouted as he dodged the punch and then kneed the boy in the gut, knocking the wind out of him in a harsh way. Then, Suian brought both fists down on Shibuki's head, knocking him out. Shibuki. Two voices rang out, making Suian look to see who spoke. Sneering, he saw it was Shin and Keiru. Oh please, you think that Kiramaru's distraction helped, then you're wrong, and if you think you actually stand a chance then you're stupid. Suian declared when he saw that Keiru and Shin were nearly on him. He merely ducked under Shin's punch and came up with his water sword technique in a diagonal slash, putting Shin down for the moment. He then followed up with a fast and powerful punch to Kaoru's gut, knocking the wind out of her pretty bad. Jinchuriki or not, that hurt pretty bad. No, you are the idiotic one. Betraying your home for something stupid like power. Naruto stated as he walked up to the group. You had a great life here with people that looked out for you. So what if you thought the place was weak? You could have gone another way to remedy that. Faye. Suian growled out as he listened to Naruto speak as Fu walked up next to him, further angering him. How had he returned her senses? He is right. Jugo stated as he too walked up to the group in his new form. What the? Also a new form for your cursed clan Suian taunted, but the thing was, he felt Jugo's immense power and was unsure if he could take it with just the hero's water under his control. No, I have been purified by the tree and I am now one with nature in this form. Jugo commented, making Suian curse. So give up now. Naruto demanded. Please, do the right thing. Shin gasped out from his position on the ground, trying not to bleed out as he laid next to his unconscious son. I always thought you were weak. Too weak to take what we need from the larger villages. Suian barked out before he brought out a vial of golden liquid. With this, we can go past the hero's water. What is that? Fu asked, immediately on guard as the power inside that vial felt familiar. Suian gained a crazed look as he smiled at Fu. You of all people should know, girl. But I guess you really don't. See, the people of this village would rather ignore your very existence, but that is a mistake. Your power can be used in a different way. Suian then gestured to the vial again. This nectar was formed from the excess residue of your demon's chakra that seems to just leak out of your one certain days. Fu eyed the vial with distaste now. Yes, your power will save us all from the pathetic existence in the ninja world. Suian shouted as she uncorked the vial with his teeth before downing it himself. The power of the hero's water, mixed with the power of the seven tails, rang through his body, making him stronger. However, it brought noticeable changes to his body. The veins around his eyes lit up with red as his own eyes shone brightly. His muscles bulged and ripped through places on his skin. Finally, two deformed wings shot out of his back in a bloody shower. Arg! Now die, you weaklings! The man shouted in a twin voice of rage and hate. Well, that is not good. Kaoru groaned as she joined the group. No, it is not. Naruto growled. Ranmyaku Zenshin. Once again a dark red aura exploded around him. Naruto's eyes turned red with an animalistic quality about them and he gained the same whisker marks on his cheeks that his siblings had, but they were far fiercer. Finally the aura itself felt dark with emotions such as hatred and anger, but mostly anger. Plus, there were dark lightning-like strikes running along his frame every now and then. Kaoru nodded as she saw him power up to handle Suian's new power, and it seemed that would need to as well. With a nod to Fu, they both went one tail in hopes that it was enough. Suian just smiled cruelly, thinking they couldn't defeat him in this form, especially after the glowing veins around his eyes expanded to the rest of his body. He felt even stronger. What he didn't know was that the two powers within him were actually killing him. Humans could barely stay alive with the hero's water and normal people couldn't handle the power of a tailed beast's chakra. So with then both in his body, it amped his body to the peak, but it would come at a price. With a laugh, the man rushed the four genin with the speed of an S-class ninja. Utilizing only taijutsu, he managed to bang them up pretty badly. Still, Kaoru and Fu did pretty well. They dodged and weaved as best they could, but they were limited in their power use. Most people thought that all Jinchuriki could handle all the power of their tailed beast right from the start. But that was false. They were like most people, adapting over time. But there were people who forced the Jinchuriki to use all of it, and they often lead to their deaths and the deaths of all the people in area. So Fu and Kaoru were still getting used to their tailed beast's power. Naruto watched carefully as the two fought Suian's monstrous form and shook his head, not because of the stupidity of the battle, but because of his anger. The chaos drive made him often act like a wild animal. But he needed to win this battle. He watched as Jugo came in from behind, but the man's deformed wings batted him away, but that is when he saw it. The wings shook a bit and cracked. That had to be his weak point. That had to be the reason why his wings looked so bad. Summoning jutsu. Naruto growled out and then slammed his hand on the ground. In a poof of smoke, a young-looking monkey appeared. However, it looked different from Naruto's other summons so far. This monkey was obviously a girl and looked almost human. She had a red battle jacket with skin-tight black pants and a bow-tied scarf on as well. Finally, Naruto noticed the red and gold-tipped bow staff. Naruto, what's going on? The girl asked, noticing the fight and how her summoner looked a little different. Diplomatic mission gone to hell, Sun. I need your help in taking this guy down. My teammates will be quickly overwhelmed soon. Well then, let's make sure they are positively whelmed. Sun badly joked, making Naruto sweat drop, even in his anger-fueled state. Naruto was right though, even if Suian was deteriorating, his strength kept and quickly took out Karu and Fu, who dared not to bring out another tail in case they lost control. Jugo seemed to be keeping his own, but it looked like the battle was taking its toll, still not used to his new form. Jugo was whacked over to Naruto and he said, a little help would be nice. On it, Sun replied, catching Jugo's attention. I need you get him into the air. I can do that much. Jugo stated as he rushed Suian again. However, he came up short from actually hitting the monster man and instead punched the ground, making his tree-like hands fuse with the ground before it exploded underneath Suian, a tree stump of sort catching him off guard and knocking him in the air like Sun had wanted. Fusetsuzan, she cried out as she jumped up, drilling her staff into Suian gut, before hitting him multiple times, mostly in the head and chest to keep him dazed. Despite being powered down to not go berserk, Karu and Fu saw a chance and took it. Karu took out Zabuza's old blade, making a slash motion in the air as a wave of chakra flew out. Chakra blade. Fu held out her hand and a swarm of beetles appeared as she fused both her chakra and her tailed beast's chakra within them. She then threw the swarm at the man alongside Karu's attack. Beetle explosion. The result was a pretty large explosion that seemed to stun Suian, making him fall to the ground, back first, just what Naruto wanted. Perfect. Naruto growled as he held a rather large swirling sphere in his hand. Dust style. Swirling energy ball cannon. The large ball of dust energy struck true and it grinded on his back. The energy engulfed his wings, seeping into its very being before disintegrating to nothing as if they were never there. That was when Suian regained himself and disengaged himself so the rest of him wouldn't be destroyed. That was when Naruto saw his mistake. The wings were not just weak point. They were what was hold back a lot more power and keeping his body from deteriorating even more. Realizing his mistake, he shouted for Sun to get back to her realm before it was too late. She did so, very reluctantly after a glare from Naruto. She now knew he was just looking out for her. Suian roared as his body was suddenly racked with pain and his mind broke. The full might of the human body was now his to control, but he would soon be dead because of that. Humans were not meant to use their full strength and a massive amount of demonic chakra. Not even noticing this, he smiled and rushed Fu and Karu, slamming them into the ground to knock them out, making craters under their bodies. As he did this, his skin all fell off. Next, he punched Jugo, creating a trench in the ground and Jugo tried to stop his body from going too far. Suian's back then exploded in a shower of blood as the muscles ripped open. Jugo tried to get back up, but then he noticed that his body was back to normal, his power with nature had worn off. No. He panicked before he saw a shadow overcome him and his world went black when Suian's foot kicked his skull into the ground, his leg now exploding in a gore shower. Shit. Naruto growled. That event had happened so quick that he barely had time to help his teammates. Before he knew what was happening, he felt a fist in his gut, instantly knocking him out of his chaos drive and onto the ground, gasping for air and slightly confused with the man's arm muscles exploded. Weak fools. I am God in this form. Suian spoke calmly, the power clouding his pain receptors. Otherwise, if he had them, he would be on the ground in absolute pain. Now die, Suian stated as he brought his fist down to crush Naruto's skull. However, he never not a chance to because in that moment, a blade of lightning exploded out from his chest where his heart would be. Finally, thing came into focus for just a moment for Suian. The power quickly dissipated and he felt pain. So much pain. With his skin gone and most of his muscles ruptured, all he felt was an earth-shattering pain as he let out a silent scream before his fell to the ground next to Naruto, dead. Kakashi was left standing, face full of rage as he stared at Suian's dead form. Trash, he muttered before he turned his gaze to a shocked Naruto. You okay? Yeah, what happened to you? Naruto asked weakly as he sat up and winced. Suian hit me with a paralyzing seal. What he didn't take into account was that I know a few things about seals, but I guess not enough to get out quick enough to stop a lot of the pain you guy went through. No one is perfect. Naruto groaned as he held his stomach in pain. That punch could have and by all intents and purposes, should have killed him. He was lucky to be alive. Come, let's make sure everyone is okay. Kakashi replied as he helped Naruto up. 4x. 5 days later, we see Shin with a heavy bandaged chest, Shibuki to his right, and Fu to his left. Fu looked a little better than Shibuki, but still tired looking. They were at the waterfall entrance outside of the village seeing Naruto's team off. Naruto looked fine, if not a little beat up. After all, he had stayed back somewhat to come up with a plan. Kairu's wound, like Fu's, had healed up, but she still looked tired. And Jugo was the worse off. His head had split open from Suian's powerful kick and he was lucky that it just didn't cave in at the time. So it was heavily bandaged. Kakashi sighed as he looked from his students to Shin, Shibuki, and Fu. During their rest time, Naruto, Kairu, Fu, and Shibuki had become good friends, despite Naruto still wanting to be alone. They had all rubbed off on each other in same way and that made Kakashi and Shin happy. Jugo was another story. They quickly found out that Jugo clan used to live in Waterfall and that they had a bad history. However, Shin and Shibuki accepted him, but they were unsure how the rest of the village would take it. After all, the cursed clan had become their boogeyman. While accepting Fu since she helped save the village, Shin was frightful of what would happen if Jugo was revealed. Well, I guess it is time to go. Kakashi replied. The mission might have been an epic fail when it came to diplomacy since worse came to be and it was all a ruse, but they had won in the end. Yeah, and Jugo, please keep what I said in mind. Shin stated, making Jugo nod as he held onto a very old-looking scroll. The scroll detailing his family's past and their jutsu that could be converted into his new nature form. Hey, I guess we'll see you later. Kairu replied. Do you think you will be at the Chunin exams? Fu shook her head. While I may be strong, I still need some work. This last battle taught me that. Plus, I don't have a team. Oh, right. Kairu replied sheepishly before a smile crept on her face as they began to leave. Oh, and good luck you too. What do you mean? Kakashi asked. They got feeling for each other. Naruto replied with a half smirk. Yep, and they confessed after they woke up. Kairu replied dreamily while also thinking about her and Naruto. Good for them. Jugo replied. Yeah, Naruto said. XXX. Back in the village, Minato sighed as Kakashi had explained to him about their recent mission, with covering up Naruto's chaos drive just in case. Kakashi explained that Naruto had done pretty good and got a lucky shot in with the wings. That info made Minato slightly happy that his son was being useful, but soon, he felt that he needed to be angry at the boy for making things worse, however, fought it just a bit and smiled. Good, but just think more the consequences next time Naruto. Minato stated, making everyone's eyes widen at the fact that Minato didn't outright berate him. Minato noticed and inwardly nodded. There was something wrong with him, that was for sure. Alright, I am bumping it up to a rank like I thought it would be. Kakashi, please give me a written report later. Dismissed. As the group left, Minato left out of his chair in pain. The is going on. He had been fighting this hatred for his son ever since he left on that mission, and he had been racked with pain. He knew for a fact that should hate his son, and he could not really figure out why he even did, other than his subconscious tell him that it was Naruto's fault that the Kyuubi was released by that man. It was all Naruto's fault for being alive at that moment in time. Why? Why should I hate him for that? Minato raged as he felt his chest hurt. Because I told you to. I need you to keep on hating him, my dear. A voice rang out both inside his head and in the room. What? Arg. Minato grunted before falling unconscious as black lightning raced along his body. I am losing control, damn it. The voice replied as he walked out of the shadows to reveal themselves as Kushina, but with a different. There were black streaks in her hair, her eyes were demonic red, and she had a black aura around her. No matter, the deed will be done at the Chunin exams and then I can leave. I have gathered almost enough hatred from these people. I just need a little more. With that, Kushin closed her eyes before becoming normal again and collapsing next to her husband. Something dark was about to happen soon, and that meant things were going to get worse. A lot worse. Naruto stared at the academy building in annoyance. This was the place that his team was supposed to take the Chunin exams in. Of course it would be. The place he had to keep pretending for the brats of Konoha's major clans. Well, not all of them, but still. He really didn't like this place, and now they had to go back. What kind of joke was this? This had to be a joke, but maybe it wasn't. After all, Minato and Kushina had always been tight-lipped about said exam. As Naruto thought about it, his thoughts travels to what happened yesterday. Flashback. It had been a few weeks since they had gotten back from Taki and almost everyone was healed. Well, Jugo's head was still healing and he was getting headaches, but that was to be expected when you get your head split open like that. Still, Tsunade was keeping an eye on the boy and told the Hokage that his team was not to enter the Chunin exams, to which the man agreed. Since then, however, Naruto has worked on his own seal inventions. Before, he didn't bother to practice with his ghost step, thinking that since it was him that created it, he would have full control. That was a mistake since he barely survived Suian's attack. Since then, he has practiced as much as he could and now he was pretty good with it. Next was the jet stream seal, which allowed him to fly using wind. He had finally gained enough control over his wind element to make it work the way he wanted it to. If he wanted, he could fly anywhere in the village that he wanted, but choose not to, so that his image stayed. He was not ready to reveal his power yet. That was for the Chunin exams. But he was able to find a use for it in another way, hence the name Jetstream. Oh, that was going to be fun to use. Then there was his other tri-seal. He was getting better with the Sharingan in his hands thanks to his secret training sessions with Itachi. It was odd though, because when he used them, it seemed like double vision, seeing out of 4 eyes and all. Next was the Yamanaka blood in the seal. After talking with Inoichi, he found that the clan could only use their powers to enter their opponent's body and screw with them. It all relied on their mind-soul link. If that was true, then Naruto found he had gained not only that, but Inoichi's dream. The ability to control people via their mind without having to leave their own body. He was still working with that, and he was sure he could not just read people's minds and influence them to do the things he wanted them to do. That was fun when he messed with Menma. Still, the boy's thoughts were disturbing and something was telling him not to even look into the minds of the rest of his family. Finally, there was the Nara blood within the seal. After speaking to Shikaku about their clan, Naruto learned that they only used shadow, a combination of light and darkness, which he already knew. But if that was the case, why was he only able to control light? Oh well, he managed to make use of it, especially with the reflective properties of dust. Hey! His attention was caught by the usually late arrival of his sensei, Kakashi Hatake. That made him realize that Kaoru and Menma finally arrived at the meeting spot. Odd how they made no noise when approaching him, but whatever. Hello my cute little genin, I have some information for you all. Kakashi said a little too happily with an eye smile. Oh yeah, what could that be? Menma replied rudely, making both Naruto and Kaoru smirk. They knew why he was in such a bad mode. Even after a couple weeks, Hinoka still wouldn't talk to him. The red had a huge crush on the girl he saved, yet she hated him for killing her master on the ultimate summon project in the land of water. While the redhead had Karen and Isaribi usually hanging off his arms, he couldn't get Hinoka to do the same. It was quite funny to be honest. Anyway, Kakashi just ignored the boy's tone and continued. Well, I have these here for you all to sign. These will let you enter the Chunin exams in a couple days as a team. Menma smiled darkly. Finally, we get to take these stupid exams and leave Naruto behind. That got a dirty look from Kaoru. Ooh, and maybe Hinoka will see how great I am too. I am defiantly doing this. Perv. Kaoru sighed with annoyance. Still, I do want to do this, what about you Naruto? Sure, I'll see how far I can get. Naruto replied with a shrug, making the girl smile brightly, knowing only a little bit of his plan. Faye, if you get very far, I will be surprised, after all, you should have died in your last mission. Menma sneered. That's enough, just be at the academy at the appointed time. Kakashi ordered before disappearing to do whatever he did, leaving the three alone. He was really getting tired of Menma's shit. Menma just sneered again before leaving, but not without leaving some parting words. Yeah, whatever. Naruto, if you hold us back in these exams, I will kill you myself so we don't have to deal with you anymore. Flashback end. Right, if anyone was going to hold back the team, it was Menma, not Naruto. Oh, so you made it failure. Oh, speak of the devil. How many times do I have to tell you to shut the up? Kaoru growled, clearly annoyed by her younger brother already. This was something Naruto had noticed lately, and that was Kaoru losing her patience with Menma ever since they got back to Konoha from their mission. It was entertaining. Can we just get this over with? Naruto deadpanned. Yeah, the sooner we are on different teams, the better. Menma replied as he brushed past Naruto, their shoulders hitting a little too violently.